Great to see the Princess of Wales celebrating the success of the GB Olympians.
And Harry and Meghan's tour. Hello and welcome to Heirs Spares, the show where we bring you insight and opinion into the lives of two rather famous royal couples on either side of the Atlantic. I'm Kinsey Schofield, and I'll be bringing you updates on the Duke and Duchess of Sussex right here in sunny California.
And I'm Rupert Bell in sunny England. Record temperatures as I record this, but I'll be bringing you news on the Prince and Princess of Wales.
Rupert, so good to have you. And I know that my audience is thrilled to see you as well. You are, without a doubt, a favorite. And we have some really great news today because over the weekend, we saw a really beautiful clip of the Prince and Princess of Wales. It was Catherine really taking the lead. You can tell she is such a sports nut. Celebrating some of your victories at the Olympics. Did you see the video? What was your reaction? I thought Catherine looked absolutely beautiful and had a healthy glow to her, and it was a thrill to see.
Yes, I did. And you have to say, I know that she would have, I'm sure, as she enjoys the summer holidays, and like so many people in this country, would have been glued to the television to see the efforts of athletes from this country and from around the world. But obviously they would have been rooting very seriously for the GB team, and it was great to see her be part of the celebration. It included people you probably are not overly familiar with, Kinsey, but a few British sports stars, Rebecca Adlington, Claire Balding, who's one of our leading sports presenters, and then we saw Michael Johnson, who works for the BBC out here, and to cap it all, the man who seems to have been everywhere at the Olympics, Mr. Snoop Dogg himself, comes at the end, which is just a bit too cool for school. But anyway, that was, and so, yes, look, Britain did pretty well. I think we won 65 medals. I'm not sure how many golds it was in that total, but all in all, yes, it was a terrific performance from the GB team. Everyone's happy about that. But to see that the royal family involved and enjoying the coverage and then finding a way to celebrate. The other thing I did notice, obviously, William has grown a holiday beard.
Yeah, I think everybody noticed that holiday beard. He looked very rugged and very handsome. That is so funny that you said that about Snoop Dogg, because I saw the video on Instagram of the Prince and Princess of Wales. And so I was scrolling through Instagram, and it was a picture of Snoop Dogg that initially popped up on their feed. And the running joke has been that Snoop Dogg will just endorse anything throughout the Olympics, whether it's a burrito, whether it's, ski equipment, whatever. It's Snoop Dogg commercials. He's everywhere throughout the Olympics. And so I thought, did this man hack the Prince and Princess of Wales's Instagram account? I mean, truly, he is everywhere. So that was not on my bingo card. The Snoop Dogg leading into a video of the Prince and Princess of Wales. I bet you Prince William got a kick out of that. And the royal fans really falling to pieces over this handsome stubble on his face. Now, you probably know more about this than I do, but we likely don't see that very often due to protocol. Is that the right mindset, or is this just he knows that it looks nicer and he looks more well kept when he doesn't? Well, what is the status there of the beard?
Well, beards are in vogue. I mean, I wouldn't want to grow one, even on a holiday. I start to feel sort of grubby, but it's all the vogue. So I have to say, if he wants to, he's on holiday, why not? And actually, if you look through history, Edward VII, all kings, moustaches, everything was, that's what you grew. It just went out of fashion. Then it has come back, and now all the sort of younger generation, I don't want to sound like an old fogey, but I'll have to admit it, have all got beards now. My youngest son, he goes around with a beard, so it's all part of it. And I suppose for William, when he's on holiday, he can he hasn't got much hair on top to let down, but maybe he wants to let some hair out and not worry about shaving. So happy holidays to them all. And obviously, like many, they would have been sitting around with their children watching the extensive Olympic coverage. And the interesting thing at the end with Snoop Dogg endorsing and saying how lovely the Prince and Princess of Wales is. I wonder how well that went down on your neck of the woods with your couple. But Snoop Dogg, I mean, he was everywhere. He was even turning up to dressage to watch the dancing horses. And so he just would pop up and it seemed to be lovely. He turned up in riding gear, I think, at the dressage one day. I mean, I think he was working for your NBC organization, but he seemed to make sure that Snoop Dogg seemed to be popping up on every organization. But fair play, the Olympics done and dusted. And look, the royal family have sporting connections with it. The Princess Royal was there in her capacity presenting medals. She's a former Olympian herself. Zara Tindall, where I was today going to a place where Zara Tindall will be competing at the Burley Horse Trials at the beginning of September. And she's a former Olympian. So the royal family have not just status connections. Some of their members of the family have actually competed at Olympics.
Well, another incident, or another, I guess I should say, reason to celebrate for the Prince and Princess of Wales is that London's air ambulance charity achieved its fundraising goal for 2 new helicopters. This thrilled Prince William. He tweeted, "Fantastic news. This is going to have a life-saving impact." Talk to me a little bit about Prince William's history as a helicopter pilot and, how this truly is one of his passions.
In a way, that was where they started their married life. He was in Anglesey or in Norfolk, the chance to be an air ambulance pilot. That's where they sort of started their married life. So that was his working life, as it were, and a very important job. So it's a passionate part of his life. And air ambulances are all the length and breadth of this country depend on charity. And if I remember rightly, wasn't earlier this year a big fundraising ball that Tom Cruise turned up that helped funds? And yesterday we was jumping off, I don't know, whatever he was doing in the closing ceremony, but he does bring stardust to it and obviously helped get the money in. And remember, it's tough economic times, but to get that level of support and money is testament to the fundraising skills of the Prince of Wales and his team around him. But the air ambulance is, we know he's got certain causes that he's very passionate about. Homelessness is obviously one that he's working hard to try and get a sort of focus of attention on that in this country. But the air ambulance, again, we know is something that he values as hugely important. And the fact is, I don't know the spec of these helicopters, but I imagine they're pretty sophisticated and will no doubt do a wonderful job once they come into service, for which the Prince of Wales would have contributed hugely in leading the fundraising from the front.
I think one of the conversations I've had a lot lately in the States about Harry and Meghan is this lack of direction, how they just kind of hop on whatever is trendy at the time when it comes to social causes. And you make a really brilliant point when it comes to the Prince of Wales. And the Princess of Wales, just off the top of my head, I can say the Earthshot Prize. Prince William is wildly concerned about the environment. Air helicopters is something that I've seen him discuss pretty, and on a repeated basis, to the point where I think that that's seared in my head. And then we have homelessness, homeward charity, and the he has laid out an actual tangible list of things he's trying to execute over the next few years, with the result being making some sort of dent in the homeless population. With the Princess of Wales, I immediately think the Early Years Project. I immediately think about Heads Together and how mental health was something that she wanted to end any sort of stigma around. But with Harry and Meghan, they are all over the place. And it makes me wonder why they haven't sat down and had some sort of strategy session where everything they do, whether it be sitting down to talk to somebody, events that they go to, is working towards giving them credibility in this 1 or 2 spaces, because it just feels like a spider web when it comes to Harry and Meghan.
Well, actually, when you look at their interview last week, Kinsey, you have to say yes, it was a very worthy cause that they were trying to promote. And actually, no one's dissing that. But again, that video felt more about Meghan's issues rather than actually concentrating with a real sense of purpose on even the family that they interviewed who've gone through such a difficult time. But, that's this week's cause celeb. What will be the next one? We know with American Riviera Orchard, where's that? That seems to be stuck between a rock and a biscuit food or whatever it is. I don't
And a
know.
dog biscuit.
A dog biscuit. So at the moment, they're just trying to, you're right. And that's the important thing. And they do look rudderless. Now, the Prince of Wales has always said that what he wants to do is, when he does something, it's designed to make an impact rather than sort of a scattergun approach and have a whole series of things. So they've sort of pared it back. Well, there'll be patrons of various organizations, but actually things that feels that sort of energize them and give them a sense of purpose, because you can feel, basically, if you're a member of the royal family, you're just going around glad handing everybody and saying, how nice, lovely to see you. But actually, the modern generation want to find that they're doing something that works and has some sense of purpose, because it's important that they do, because otherwise people will just see, well, what's the point of the royal family? If they can see that he has helped, and people on the street will benefit from the fact that there are two swanky new helicopters going to be saving lives around the streets of London, then people are going to say, well, then that gives the royal family some sense of justification. It's the same when it comes to, the homelessness. He's got to be careful, because that could go down some political and politics avenue, which he could find himself, and he's got to steer clear. So it's a hard one to navigate. And the Earthshot Prize, again, environmental issues, again, particularly in America. It's, some people agree with it, some people don't. But what he's trying to do is innovate and come up with ideas on a global basis. So those three things do give him something that he can cut his teeth into. And I think that's the important thing. Whereas the Duke and Duchess of Sussex at the moment are a seriously rudderless ship that seems to be spinning on its own axis and not quite sure when to go, which direction to go in. And that's the problem for Harry. He's got Invictus Games, but even that seems to be a bit of a PR minefield at the moment.
Truly, it really does. Talking about being rudderless, now the Telegraph is reporting that Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are ignorantly being used as political pawns by the left-wing government there, which has been haunted by corruption scandals. And I think when you are rudderless, it's easier to fall victim to something like this. Corruption has been a significant issue in Colombia, affecting various levels of government. In one case, their president's son was arrested as part of a high-profile money laundering investigation into funds he allegedly collected from convicted drug traffickers. The influence of drug trafficking and organized crime has heightened corruption and citizens' concern in some areas. And one prominent local lawyer told the Mail on Sunday, I'm sure Meghan and Harry mean well, but everyone here is talking about how obviously they are being manipulated. The Telegraph points out that Harry and Meghan's trip to this crime-ridden country was announced just days after the Duke said it was too dangerous to bring his wife to your neck of the woods. And the UK government, as I know you're well aware of, their travel advice warns that terrorists are very likely to try and carry out attacks in Colombia. There is a risk of kidnapping by armed groups, and the country is seriously afflicted by conflict and cocaine turf wars. Even the vice president that invited them has already had to beef up her own security following several assassination attempts, including a bomb threat, a bomb that was actually left near her home. I guess my question to you would be, Harry, what the hell are you thinking?
Well, this is the problem. And I think we spend quite a lot of time thinking those very same thoughts on a number of issues. So, look, they went to Nigeria, which I suppose on the face of it, you would say, I don't know the full extent of what their government is like and corruption issues, but on the face of it, it wouldn't be the most obvious one to go to, but he was saying it was behind the Invictus Games. Yes, they want to go and draw attention to a few good causes, But yes, and they're going to places that are deemed, yes, Colombia does have these areas where they say just do not go to, but where they're going, they will be primarily safe. But you're right to think that this is a good look. Now, we've got problems in this country, and no one's denying that we've been having riots on the streets. It's all been pretty unseemly.
We just had an assassination attempt too. Like, we had it over here too. So I get it. Yeah.
We've got issues. No one's denying that. And but in terms of how he would be in this country, I think he'd be pretty safe. And so this is why we don't understand what is going on here. Happy to go. And I was even reading, and I don't know whether this is true, that they may even be bringing their children there. So I don't know whether I saw something of someone suggesting that, but I may be totally wrong there. So I don't want to be a hostage to fortune and say you don't know what you're talking about. But there are those sort of speculative rumors online. So you believe those probably with a pinch of salt, says he, hastily backtracking here, Kinsey. But the point is, they are still going to Colombia. And yes, I do feel that their government, with the Colombian government, will hope that the stardust of Meghan and Harry will give a bit of gloss and maybe cover up some of the issues that are going in Colombia. Now, I do not know enough about Colombian politics. Yes, I can read the headlines about the drug cartels and all that kind of stuff. But I do know supposedly there have been improvements in the way the country operates. But it just doesn't feel, it is a royal visit in all but name. And that's what they want. And that's what Meghan's wants. And she will want to be front center of that and be the one always being photographed. And probably Harry will be walking one step behind, because it feels like this is more Meghan's show, with Harry just bringing the title. Now, that might sound a bit damning, but that's the way it feels to me.
We love to hear it, Rupert. All right. I spoke to the Express last week, and I hate to quote myself, but it's such an I told you so moment that I wanted to share it. They asked me what Harry and Meghan expected to gain from this experience. And I said that Harry and Meghan have become the butt of the joke in the United States, whether a comedian is taking a swipe at Prince Harry at an award show, or South Park is destroying the couple for their continued PR stunts. These two have to leave the country to prove that someone out there takes them seriously. And to my point, I open up the Daily Mail today and see the headline, Joe Rogan brutally mocks Prince Harry in new Netflix stand-up show. As you know, Joe Rogan, Spotify's official golden boy, Prince Harry, famously got the boot from the podcast network for not fulfilling contractual obligations. Joe poked fun at Harry for his recreational drug use and basically calls him an idiot, asking what qualifies Prince Harry to be the deciding factor on misinformation. To me, it's obvious that Harry and Meghan are desperate to be taken seriously, and they realize that they have to turn their brand around. They will travel no matter what the security concerns are to any country willing to give them a platform, because those glossy photos in People magazine just might change someone's mind about them. Will this work? Is this the right strategy? Because it seems like this is something they want to continue to do between Nigeria, between Colombia. It looks like they're really gunning for this.
No, and this is one of the reasons they felt that, the royal visits they did, they felt that they, couldn't do what they wanted to do, and felt, wasn't there even a suggestion, you don't get paid to do this. Now, I don't know whether they're being paid to go there, and how does it work with the increased security? Are they being paid to go there? Someone is probably footing the bill for this to make sure that they're in the very best places. Who is paying for it all? If it was a royal visit, yes, that comes with, there's a diplomatic element to that. It's Britain promoting itself using the royal family as a vehicle. Yes, they may be promoting a few charitable causes, but it's actually designed to promote brand Sussex. And that is the problem, I think. And the royal family look at it and probably are rolling their eyes and thinking, they know what's going on here, that it's basically designed as backing up their commercial aspirations and proving that they are relevant. Now, what they may be doing might have an impact, and good luck to them if it does. But at the heart of it, unfortunately, the cynicism levels from all and sundry about it doesn't help them, I don't think. And that's the problem. Now, when we look at the pictures, the optics will be heavily controlled. There will be only sort of certain pieces. It will be managed within its inch of its PR life. So therefore, you just take it as a glorified puff.
Yeah.
You know, and
I mean, well, it's highly suspicious that Prince Harry, who openly, willingly appears on the cover of People magazine, invites People magazine as the only outlet to accompany them to Nigeria. People magazine, who reports that the king's no longer taking Prince Harry's phone calls. I mean, I think that they clearly you're right, it's puff, and we need to be cautious when we read some of these headlines as to where they're coming for. Omid Scobie's out. People magazine is in. That is Harry and Meghan's new vehicle, and we just need to be, we need to accept that as is. But you made a really good point. When you talk about, it was Valentine Lowe who said that Meghan had said out loud, I can't believe I'm not getting paid for this, during one of their royal visits. When Harry and Meghan left the royal family, their tone was that they felt like they were being held back, and that they could accomplish so much more for the world on their own terms. We're getting Jam, we're getting mean-spirited reality TV shows. We're getting Spare, where Prince Harry mentions his wiener over 15 times. Is this the what better they could do for the world away from the royal family?
Well, you are in California. I think I've used this quote before. Stay classy, San Diego. And, I'm afraid it's not particularly classy. And if they want to be taken seriously, you actually have to look as if you are serious and really want to do it. I just get the feel they have to do it because this helps them.
Do they really want? That is thank you for saying that. That is the truth.
Yeah, because yes, they are going to Colombia. Yes, it might help, some disadvantaged people and create some degree of interest, because they will have a following, and we've got to accept it. There is a curiosity. What are we doing? We're talking about them. There's a curiosity level about them and their new direction. But what they've got to try and do is, as we've spoken to, have a sense of purpose and stick to it. Now, look at the long-term game. It's not about the short term. They've got to be making sure brand Sussex is relevant down the line, 5 years down the line. What's it going to look like? How's it going to be? Is it going to have achieved the goals they want to set out? But everything they've turned to, seems to be a fallout. And we're hearing it now in Invictus. Suddenly we're hearing that the Canadians did have to pay extra money to help with their security. While it wasn't necessarily specifically against them, the Canadian government did have to fork out a little bit extra to make sure there was an extra level of protection for the various VIPs, including the Sussexes who came to the event earlier this year. So they do create fallout, and that's what they've got to try and avoid, is this endless sort of PR backlash. But that means that they've got to listen to people, take it on board, and people who really know and don't think they know best. Okay. Because if you do, if they think they know best, there are very experienced people, and I'm not entirely sure they're good at taking advice.
That's the truth. Because you mentioned it, I'll quickly touch base on this. The Vancouver police logged 44,555 are loony, as it's called in Canada. Is that correct? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, Canadian viewers. Insecurity-related overtime during Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's brief stay in February. They were there for just 3 days, February 14th to the 16th, to promote the Invictus Games, which is going to be held in British Columbia next February. The Invictus Games covered $10,221 through recovery, but Canadian taxpayers are still on the hook for $34,333 in overtime. Now, Doug Maynard, who is the director of security for Invictus Games, said that police were responsible for public safety. That is the money that's that overtime fee, while Prince Harry's security was privately paid for. Here's where my antenna perks up. Rupert, he says taxpayers did not fund Harry and Meghan's security during their stay last February. Their private security detail was paid by individual donations directed by the donors for that purpose. So who is sitting around donating to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's security fund? And when Prince Harry does all of this media insisting he's willing to pay for his own armed security guards in the UK, trying to sway the government into giving him the type of protection he wants in the UK, is he really paying for it? Or is this millionaire functioning off of security donations?
I think I couldn't know exactly.
Yeah.
But whatever, it just shows the weakness of his argument. If he just accepted, if he could come back to this country without a problem, there would be always security, and a level of security. You don't tell me up in Balmoral, where they all are, there isn't security, in every bit of heather. Well, there's lots of security up there because they're all up there, or the various houses they're staying in. Of course, there's security. It may not enough security and working out what the threat is, etc., etc. For Harry and Meghan, it's a cause célèbre, which is an easy one to say because he can easily say, "I've not got security. Woe is me. I won't come back to Britain." I think there's more underlying things to that. Is that actually, I'm not sure Meghan's busting a gut to get back to Britain. So
but also, how much of it do you think is him feeling like the spare, like he's not getting a fair shake? How much of it is ego and him thinking, well, I'm just as much of the son of the king as William. I want what William has too.
Well, he can't have it because unfortunately he was the second born.
And he quit his job. He quit his responsibilities.
Yeah, and look, it is always a difficult one. Throughout history, the role of the spare is not, plays are written, Shakespeare plays, the scheming brother and all that. There's nothing new about what's gone on here. This is historical. And unfortunately, Harry has felt more of a victim and felt that, all the focus was on, William and Kate. And Meghan wasn't happy with that, because she was used to being the numero uno. And when you're no longer the numero uno, it is a problem. And that is what she found and didn't like. Now, when she goes on her visits, she's very much the numero uno, and she will be wearing clothes that make her stand out in the photographs. So you just can't miss her. I mean, I wouldn't know.
They'll be beige. They'll be beige. They'll be white. They'll be oversized. They'll need an iron, but she'll be wearing them, and we'll be talking about them, and they'll be $6,000.
Yeah, and there will be obviously what she's wearing. It will be designed to make sure that the cameras can't miss her, and we know that. Yeah. And again, if it raises money and helps the cause, then there is a positive outcome of it. But the cynicism at the heart of it is the thing that frustrates me. That is it being done for the right reasons? Now, good luck to them when they go to Colombia. But I'm sure there will be still the political discussions within Colombia about this and saying, why are they here? Is it just from the vice president covering up and trying to say, look, everything in the garden is rosy. Look, we can attract the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Well, they haven't attracted main people. But good luck to them. Hope they enjoy it and hope they feel that it achieves what they want to achieve. But people will be wanting to see some positive results, but I'll be very intrigued to know what kind of reaction we get from the people of Colombia. But actually, we probably won't know because all the PR stuff we will hear will be very controlled. And if it's going to be part of a subsequent Netflix documentary, there will be a lot of good editing, I'm sure.
I know my audience is going to challenge you on Meghan being numero uno. How much of Meghan's attitude and resentment towards the royal family is about insecurity and, really struggling all through her teens and 20s in Hollywood and being told no, finally getting, you know, if you read Tom Bower's book, she finally books Suits and tries to fight her way up the call sheet, desperate to get a car to come pick her up. They won't even send a car to her house to pick her up. She complains and complains until someone finally breaks down higher up in the cast and asks production to send her a car. How much of it is Meghan being used to being number one? I mean, I'm sure she was treated differently as a Hollywood actress versus a real insecurity that she's dealt with all of her life. When she writes about not knowing what box to tick under her race as a child, like, I just feel like she is riddled with insecurity, and Catherine heightens that insecurity.
Yes, I don't think it's been, and let's be quite clear, I don't think it's been particularly easy for the Princess of Wales when you're under that level of scrutiny. This is, no one takes this job on lightly, to be the future king's consort wife. It is so fraught with dangers, and the spotlight's on her, and the mental, it's a very stressful job. But actually, what Meghan is dealing with, suddenly she marries in to great acclaim and a welcome, from the British hillsides, the length and breadth of the land. It was thought, good on Harry. He's got him someone a bit different who's going to bring some spark and, a bit of glitter to the royal family and a new
Markle
look.
Sparkle.
But yeah, Markle Sparkle. Well, unfortunately, the lights went out pretty quickly, because she suddenly found out, what am I doing here? I'm basically, just going around smiling at people.
Yeah.
And I have to walk behind. I cannot be, the Queen's going to, when she was around, was always going to be center stage. You'd then have the King, and then you would have William, because that's the way it works. You can't get away from it. And that's, unfortunately, she hadn't got the sense of history that would have given her credence and credibility if she just said, right, I accept my lot. Like the Princess Royal. She is as hardworking as ever. She is committed to the royal family. No fuss, no bother, just get on with it. I know I'm not the number one, but I know I can help my brother do what he needs to do to be king. And she has gone, committed wholly. Okay, she had a nasty accident the other day, but she was back out and she was wearing a bucket hat at the Olympics. She was rocking the joint, but she knows the role. And that's where Harry did not help Meghan understand that, look, we can make this work. I'm close to my brother, but maybe her insecurities were that she wanted to be like, she seems to have a very small circle of friends and family friends you can count on one hand. And and Harry's now down to friends on one hand. And that's so sad, because Meghan wants to be, that's all about her. Now, that may be damning and may be rude, but you do get a sense that everything has to be focused on her. And it must be tiring for Harry, because, ultimately he knows that, she will want to be the one that everyone's talking to, not Harry, but Harry is the reason why she's there, because she's there as the Duchess of Sussex. She would not be going to Colombia if she was just Ms. Markle.
Yeah, Meghan Markle from canceled Suits. Yeah, really quickly, this is not under the Heirs and Spares category, but there was some pushback when the King responded to some of the unrest in the UK. I felt like his statement was kind and uplifting, and I didn't have a problem with it, although I'm over here in the United States and I might have missed something. What was your response to the King's reaction to some of the protests that took to the streets?
I think it's pretty hard. He's got a fine line. I think he doesn't like seeing his country having unrest. Of course he doesn't want to see his streets that he's the king of, in an unruly state. And I think it's left a lot of us blindsided and wondering what the heck's going on. And it's, there's a lot at play here, which is very hard to work out, what the true facts are. And it's been unseemly. But I think the King has always said, even I think if, I want to govern for all. And this is a reflection of that. But as you quite rightly say, and we've talked about it, that dancing that fine line between making a political statement, but actually saying, I'm pleased it's all over, or it's calming down, because we have to, that for whatever reason, without making political statements, but just saying, I'm pleased things look like they're calming down. Whether that is the case long term, who's to say? But right now, I think it wasn't the worst thing he's done. And he hasn't had too many missteps, if I think, along the way. Okay, Inkgate early on, and there were one or two others. He got frustrated at the Parliament.
Yeah.
But otherwise, these are the difficulties of being a modern day monarch, because everything is being analysed. In the old days, probably the king and queen would not have made any comment, but he feels calmly to offer some level of saying, I'm glad that things are calming down. It's not an easy one, and that's something that he's going to have to always have at the back of his mind. Is this the right thing to do? And be well advised, because if he does go political, then that could cause real problems for the status of the monarchy. And it's something that William's going to have to learn with his causes. The air ambulance one, no one's going to decry that. Homelessness, he's got to be careful about. Environmental issues, got to be careful about. But so far, so good.
Also, it's such a hot, delicate issue that's still fluid. So whatever he says, whatever the king says, he is hyper aware of the fact that this could define him in the history books, whether things lean left or right. So I don't envy the position that he's in, because if the city blows up, then he looks like he didn't take a firm enough stance. But if everything's okay, then everything, then it was the right move.
I think it's quite hard for him to take any stance, and that's why he's got to avoid taking one.
Yeah.
Because if he does, then one side is not going to agree with him. So what he's got to do is come out with a neutral, calming voice. Yes. That is the monarchy. That's what you saw, say, in the Second World War. You'd hear the king battling away, but offering support. Be seen going out to the, when London was bombed, being out there on the streets, offering a calm and a sort of rock-like stance that, people can rally round without having a political view. And that, in the modern Britain, with everything social media and news flying around off the charts, it's a very difficult one to navigate. So it requires people within the royal household with the best will of being absolutely having their ear tuned to the ground, so that there isn't a sort of a tone deaf statement that comes out from the king. But so far, and everyone that I've spoken to about him saying that, look, he's really, still trying to work as hard as ever as he recovers from cancer. Hopefully he's recharging his batteries in Scotland, having a lovely time, and hopefully the weather is not blowing a hoolie and it's lashing down with rain every other day in Scotland, but he's able to recharge his batteries after what has been a difficult year. You hope the same for the Princess of Wales, that with her family in the summer holidays, that she is getting stronger by the day. As we started talking about the video, we are getting her being seen in little drips and drabs. That's now the third one, isn't it, really, since the cancer announcement. We saw the statement, the trooping of the colour, Wimbledon. Well, actually, number 4, if I just do my quick maths. That's where we're at. But maybe in September we might see her, once the children go back to school, will we see her occasionally going to something else that is relevant? Things like the service of remembrance in November, and there are other sort of formal state occasions that it would be quite normal for her to turn up. It's how they manage that first public visit that is out of, the first trip on her own. That's going to be the hard one for her and people who are organising it, to make sure that she feels comfortable. Going to Wimbledon, that's an open goal, because that's easy. She loves it there, and she could watch tennis all day, every day, because we know she loves her sport. But that's going to be the challenge. But it's good, even though we do see a video that starts with a Prince of Wales and ends with Snoop Dogg. Well, that's quite, I think it's quite cool, but you probably shouldn't be saying things are quite cool, should you, Kinsey?
No, you could say they're quite cool, but I'm old enough to remember when Snoop Dogg was accused of murder. So sometimes I see these things. Remember when he performed Murder Was the Case that they gave me on MTV while I think the cops were waiting outside to arrest him? So like I watch things like that and I think, oh, how quick we are to forget and just move. I
Well,
mean, perfect case for Harry and Meghan.
oh, and they'll be hoping we forget, because if we can forget, then everything in the Montecito garden will be blooming. But at the moment, there's a bit of a drought as far as that is concerned.
That's the truth. Oh, Rupert, you're my date for the next 2 weeks after this too, I heard. Have you been made aware of that?
Well, I got a date next week. But always happy. A third date. That's a good sign, Kinsey.
That
It's
is
a good sign.
sign.
They're
It's
going
a
to be
great
talking,
sign.
Kinsey. This long distance relationship. But anyway, I look forward to talking to you next week. I think I still might be at home next week.
Okay.
And then I get back on the road a bit. So I don't know which prison cell I'm going to be talking to you from next, if people remember my hotel last time. But anyway,
Your haunted hotel. Well, that's the joy of talking to you. It's always a surprise. I like my flowers colorful, and I look forward to talking to you again next week. You are such a joy, Rupert. You know I adore you. Thank you so much for your time today. If you agree or disagree with us, all you have to do is let us know in the comments below. Make sure you like this video, share it with a friend, and subscribe. Thanks so much for watching. Rupert and I will see you again next week.